Just some few facts about the event that we've discovered thus far. As we all know, it was a magnitude 5.5. It is now the largest recorded mine-related earthquake in South Africa. Previously, it was the one in 2005 in the same area. The depth that we have now located it is at 5 kilometers. This did vary as we got more and more information. I know everybody was saying the USGS released it at 10 kilometers, but they did revisit their location as well, and they've also got it about 5 kilometers. So we're in agreement in that respect, as well as in the magnitude. What we also are in agreement with is that it was a strike-slip event. So basically what that means, here's some nice diagrams that I got off the internet. So these just describing the types of faulting that you will get. So strike-slip basically, it's just a vertical fault where the two land masses move horizontally. So that's what we're looking at the moment. The typical accelerations that we picked up, this is still preliminary, recorded at the surface right next to the event was 0.2 G. The G is gravity, so it's quite strong accelerations. As we all know, it was felt throughout the country. It was pretty impressive. It was from Cape Town, Durban, all over. And the aftershock sequence, also a very impressive aftershock sequence, hundreds within the first hour. And the biggest event that we've had thus far was a 3.8, and the people actually did feel that one.
Most of the earthquakes that do happen in South Africa are inside the mining areas, and there's no doubt that when you create a big void underground, nature wants to close that void, and so you induce strong high stresses in the rock, and the rock fractures and slips from time to time and triggers seismic events, and these cause rock bursts, and that have led to many injuries and fatalities over the years. And then occasionally you get these larger events which affect the communities on the surface, and of course can cause damage to homes owned by private people, but to businesses, to factories, and that's where this the interface between what is the effect of mining on the surrounding communities. And then we come to the the very critical question is this event directly the result of mining, or is it just triggered by mining, or is it completely unrelated? And it's on a continuum, and it's sometimes a little bit difficult to answer, because there's no doubt that the big events happen when you have slip along old, ancient, pre-existing faults. But often our evidence is that those faults haven't moved for millions of years, but it is now the mining activity that is perhaps bringing it just to that point of failure and triggering that event. Without mining, it is possible that you could have had slip on that structure, but it would be far, far less frequent. There are quite a few things controlling this, and the one is the rate of mining, the extent at which you're making these voids. And as we know, certainly in our gold mining industry, the rate of mining is a lot less than it was in the 1970s and 1980s. And in that sense, it should maybe slow down. But then we know that nature takes a long time to react to this. The rock creeps and cracks, and so it will certainly continue for years and decades, even maybe centuries after mining stops. And then the other factor now is, of course, as we stop mining, we're allowing those old mining voids to fill up with water. And we find that as it fills up with water, it puts what we call a pore fluid pressure on those faults, and that will trigger some events that maybe wouldn't occur if you didn't dewater. But of course the costs of continually pumping are enormous, and so this is something that will happen. So as the mines are allowed to flood in a controlled way, we can expect to see a wave of seismicity taking place, which will then afterwards die down to perhaps more background levels. Council for Geoscience now put in seismic stations in the mining areas to monitor seismicity, particularly as mines change hands and close down. We've also now put in strong motion sensors in those regions to record exactly what happened on this earthquake on the 5th of August. And some research has continued. Certainly at that time, the disaster management structures in South Africa were still newly being established, and in some areas they hadn't included earthquake, disasters as part of their planning. And my information is, yes, they seem to be doing that, and it seems that the emergency response to this event on the 5th of August was quite speedy and was quite competent. And so there are so I think, but on the other hand, there have been issues around the quality of building, and also to withstand shaking. And it seems that some of the the buildings that were damaged, that they haven't been, you could say, taken the possibility of earthquake shaking into account. And so then there's the issue of regulations, new seismic codes have been promulgated since 2005, which is good, but of course the whole problem is that of rolling it out and making sure it's routinely implemented, and I think that's a whole lot bigger challenge.